The Curse of Being Male. Video by Hamza. We'll see what he has to say in this video, so...
From the moment of birth, you're told that men don't cry. Don't cry again. I'll give you something to cry about. Don't worry, men cry. He's crying, what a... You battle huge double standards every day. Men should respect women's bodies. He's got a small...
I think these days especially, body shaming has taken a whole new meaning. Or rather, the meaning has changed in the past couple of years or so, to where it's almost lost its entire meaning. For example, if someone is overweight, with all health criteria being considered, and he just happens to point that out to someone, especially if it's a woman, he's now being called fatphobic. He's now body shaming this woman. And I think that's where the definition of body shaming has started to take a turn from what it actually is. What I believe body shaming is, you're saying something about a person in regards to their body that's negative, that's in a negative connotation. And I don't believe if someone points out that someone is overweight, that is body shaming, just because it's not necessarily meant in a negative connotation. It's just to point out that they're at a point in their life where their own body is unhealthy. They're exposing themselves to many risks health-wise associated with being overweight. For example, coronary heart disease, an increased risk at heart attacks, among many more other health risks that come with being overweight. So when someone just mentions that someone is overweight, I think it's just pointing that out and suggesting to them that they should make more healthful decisions to get their bodies to where they need to be healthy. And I guess where this whole fat shaming thing has been amplified is in the area of relationships, where men typically don't want overweight women. There's a difference between being overweight and being thick. Being overweight is an issue where your body is at a certain body fat percentage where it becomes unhealthy. And for women, I'd like to believe that the ideal body fat percentage is around 22 to 25%. And for men, it's 10 to 12%. So I think if a woman in particular has a body fat percentage that's maybe slightly higher than that, is where you start to consider them to be quote unquote thick. And I think that's okay, as long as they're healthy. But when we start getting into the obese ranges of body fat percentage, I don't quite remember what percentage it was, but I think it's around 30 upwards. 30% going upwards. I think it's just indicative of a lack of motivation and a lack of willingness to make more healthful decisions in terms of your own body. And really, the choice to exercise or start making healthful decisions in terms of changing your diet, it's more beneficial to the individual that's doing it upon themselves, because you're making healthy decisions for yourself, you're prolonging your own life, and the kinds of partners that you're likely looking for, especially if you're a woman, that's what they prefer. So you're increasing your own marketability towards that demographic of men. So generally speaking, I think it's bad for women and men to shame each other based on the appearances of their bodies. So, you know.
Don't be sexist. You earn more money than women. Who cares if you work longer hours in undesirable jobs and you're more likely to die in those jobs? There is a wage gap.
Okay, and getting into this thing of the whole wage gap thing, generally speaking, between men and women, there is a wage gap. Don't get me wrong, there is a wage gap. But the way feminists, if you will, tend to want to spin that is to say across the board, in each and every single job you get, there is a wage gap. And just the presence of that wage gap is a sign of the oppression towards women or whatever. And I think what's important is to get into some of the reasons that wage gap exists on average. Let's run it back. Let's run what he said back to see some of the reasons that he gave for the existence of the wage gap.
Who cares if you work longer hours?
Exactly. Men on average tend to work more hours because they have more of an imperative to make money or to provide value to the society. Why? Because they have to provide for a family, because they have more of an incentive to provide value to this world. Now, I understand there are single mothers who have to take care of an entire household by themselves, but it's too small of a percentage of women to account for all men who are in the work field.
In undesirable jobs, and you're more likely to die in those jobs, there is a wage gap.
Yes, and this is the other reason why a wage gap exists on average between men and women. The choice of careers. Men across the board tend to choose STEM careers, that's your science, technology, math, engineering, which are some of the highest paying careers, generally speaking. And miss me with that whole, oh, it's a male dominated area because of oppression and things. No, there hasn't been more aggressive promotion of girls and women going into STEM careers than today. But less and less women are opting to get into those careers. They're opting more to get into humanities, into those nurturing careers like nursing, social work or communications, if you will. The jobs being taken by women are less paying than the jobs being taken by men, which are STEMs are an example of one. Things that bring value to the world, that help build the world. Those typically pay more. And it's been proven that less women opt to get into those careers. And it is actually illegal for a man and a woman working the same job, doing the same amount of work, to be paid differently, or for the man to be paid more. And workers actually have the right to know what their peers are making. Yeah, that was a wild tangent, but
if she accused you, then it must be true. Why would she lie? Girls don't lie. You are guilty until proven innocent. She hit you, but she's just a girl. You're a grown man. It was all him, officer.
And that's a very flawed concept when it comes to this issue of assault accusations. Now, I don't want to discredit women who actually go through these things and report them to the authorities. That's a real issue that deserves to be addressed. But I think these days, women more and more are realizing that the legal system is biased in their favor. A sexual or a physical assault accusation from a woman towards a man will be taken so seriously. Without any context, without any evidence, it'll be taken so seriously. Case in point, the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation. I think basic human nature should tell you that if someone makes an accusation towards someone, no matter how serious it is, evidence should be provided. And what these false accusations do, they discredit those women that are actually going through cases of abuse. Because as men see more and more of these women coming up with these accusations without any evidence, and when it's actually found out that they are wrong and there are no repercussions for the women actually lying, it just discredits those going through these things. And I think those women should hold each other accountable. I think that's the best way to address this situation. Those women that are actually going through these things to actually hold those that are falsely accusing men of assault or of any crime accountable. Because it's making them look bad. It's discrediting them when they actually go through that. And men don't want to believe them because there's the possibility that she's lying. So, yeah.
You've been spoon-fed advice that doesn't work, and you've been left to figure out your lonely existence by yourself. Don't worry though, we made OnlyFans so you don't feel as lonely, but do not look at women like they are sex objects. But there is a special sale, $9 and you can see her naked. But she is a queen and you will treat your $9 queen properly. Chivalry is dead, there's no gentleman anymore. And this is why. But I am a sexist misogynist for speaking about some male issues, because we can only ever say that women are the victims of everything, and men, we're fine, don't worry, we'll just kill ourselves. No one's gonna care because 25% of are women. 25%! Someone save the women! Do you know, when I first heard this statistic, my blood boiled. 25% of women, so you're telling me that 75% are men and you're acting like this is a female problem. But women try to commit more often. I don't think so.
Here's how I interpret the statistic that he just gave. In all cases of 1 in every 4 people who commit are women. The rest are men.
It's reported more often, but men that I know have tried it. But they won't tell you that. They won't answer the survey, have you tried to kill yourself, and tick yes. Women, I think, are way more likely to do that, to ask for help. Men, not so much.
And with this whole thing of women attempt more than men, going off of these statistics, it logically does not make sense. If for the amount of people that are actually committing, more of them are men, it should indicate that more men are attempting to kill themselves than are women, just based off of simple math and simple statistics. So even if we try to get into the statistics of seeing how many women attempt as compared to men, I don't think there's a very concrete way of proving that. So the only logical thing to do is to go with the statistics. And I don't mean to paint the picture that women killing themselves doesn't matter. People in general themselves is an issue that we need to deal with. We need to look into the mental health of people and promote better mental health for everyone, men and women. And here's the reason why I think that's the case. Men in general are being told to be a man. Men in general are considered to be less emotional than women. So you'd expect men to express their emotions less than women. That's the expectation that has been put up by society. So men have no incentive to admit their thoughts. Why? Because if they air it out into the world, they are being emotional. They are met with ridicule. They are met with the ridicule of being emotional, of acting like a woman, or not being a man. So that's why it would be much less likely for men to admit that they want to commit than it is for women. It doesn't even have to be a serious. She could just be crying in the middle of the street and people will try and come to rescue. Oh, is anything wrong? Whereas if you find a man crying in public, you're more likely to ignore him. He's more likely not to be met with the same compassion. So that's why I feel like women find it easier to express their emotions to the world, because it's much more likely to be met with actual concern for their emotions or their feelings, and much less likely for men, which is why men tend to keep to themselves and men tend to suppress their feelings. Men are less likely to admit that they want to commit than women.
But remember, if you speak about male issues, you are a misogynist. Do you know, a girl actually said that to me once. So I looked her in the eyes and I said, okay, I'm a misogynist then. Take care.
Comment real man if you're still here. Or like your thoughts on the video, whether you agree or disagree, I don't know, I can control